And now let's flip sides of scrimmage. Let's talk about that defense. The first unit to talk about is the defensive ends, and you're going to love this. Ready? Eric O'Neal, 89. Bradley Weaver, 87. Boom.
Nice.
That's a core right there. That's a 1-2 punch. Left and right ends, 89, 87 overall. Potentially Eric O'Neal can be in the 90s too.
Yeah. The success of Rutgers this year is the offensive and defensive lines. We saw the defensive line last year really affected by injuries, and that's a mitigating factor. But can they pressure the quarterback and disrupt the quarterback's timing? I'm not looking for sacks. I'm looking at, can you upset the quarterback's timing such that we're going to be able to drop 7, drop 8, and maybe still get pressure. That's going to be so critical because we can't be using blitzes to get pressure. We can't be leaving our secondary vulnerable if we can't get to the quarterback. So the transfers that we've got from South Florida, James Madison, the returning starters, this defensive line is much improved, and I think could be the strongest unit on the team.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I know that we're not talking about sacks being the priority. I still think Eric O'Neal can get like 15 of them things.
I think he's going to have a great year. But what matters to me is, are we throwing the quarterback off in terms of his timing? If we can do that, that's when you create turnovers. That's when you get third down stops. That's when you control time and possession. And that's when you really alter the other team's game plan. Getting pressure. Just like, remember the Eagles in the Super Bowl getting at Mahomes with 4 all game.
Yep.
There you go.
And some other notables on the defensive end. Jordan Walker, 79 overall. I think that's about fair after starting all of last year. The front 7 wasn't really, outside of Mo Toure, wasn't very it wasn't really the focus of the defense. So I think
how's Miami, Mo?
Oh God. Jordan Walker, 79. Jordan Thompson, 75. DJ Allen, 74. And Jabril Abdul-Rahman is not in the game because he's a scholarship player. He'll be in the next update.
Okay.
Anything stand out there?
So what stands out to me from the ratings is that the defensive line is perceived as mediocre. And I think that's underestimating how they will perform. Now, how are they going to perform against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Illinois, Washington? I don't know, and it goes back to a question I raised a few shows ago, which is, these transfers at James Madison have had a great deal of success, but the competition they're playing against is not as high. Can their success translate when they're facing Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State? I think that the rankings reflect some degree of skepticism and also some speculation that might not be the case.
Well, I mean, the front 2 are 2 of our 3 best players on the team, according to this. It's just the depth. Jordan Walker started all year. He didn't crack 80. I get it. Thompson's perceived as a little less than average. Like, he's not starting. DJ Allen, 74 is fine for a backup. So that's the defensive line, the defensive ends rather, but the defensive tackles. Doug Blue Eli, who you've paired him and Eric O'Neal talking about the defensive line, I've noticed, but he's only ranked a 78 in this.
Yeah, rankings are very subjective. I mean, let's look at the start of the 2024 season. Did anybody see Boise State, SMU,
Indiana,
Arizona State, Indiana? Yeah. So I wouldn't look at them as definitive. I would look at them as a general guide. But ultimately, I think what they don't account for is the intangibles in the players, the system they're in, and the commitment and determination they have. And I think Rutgers is coming into this season with a chip on their shoulder because I think they feel like last season they had a golden opportunity and didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. I think they're coming into this season pissed off, hungry, and if they can unite around common values and truly be a team, they can be competitive with anyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ratings come down to not understanding talent versus opportunity. We talk about Ben Black being a 73. Fama Toure, who showed he won I forget what the award was called. He won an offseason award, and then he just got injured days later, so now he's stuck at a 69. Another guy on the defensive tackles, or two of them I wanted to talk about, actually. Well, really three. Keyshawn Griffin, Oliver Biot, I think. Daryl Denegohi, they're all 75 overall. So that's a little below average, maybe average on the dot.
Well, I think
76.
There's no criteria by which to really rank these guys. All they're going on is their past play in a different conference. It's very hard to extrapolate and project how they're going to do. So that's why I think the rankings are subjective. I mean, I think of rankings this way. When you're looking at college baseball prospects, if you've got a kid throwing 99 miles an hour in high school, that kid's going to be ranked as a really high prospect. What the ranking doesn't tell you is if he can throw strikes, if he can place the ball. So it gives
pressure.
you –
It doesn't count into factor the pressure either.
No, it doesn't exactly, and that's where the intangibles come in. But I also think where rankings are the most valuable is at the margins. When you see a player ranked in the 90s or in the 50s or something, that's telling you this person is a star, this person is not on the level. But when you get into the middle, that's where I think a lot of other factors that can't be quantified make all the difference.
Yeah, and after this, I'll talk about we'll talk about the top 10-ish player ratings nationally, just so you can get an idea of sort of how the rankings play into effect when it comes down to player by player basis. So, I mean, that's it for the D tackles, the DTs, no Sheffield, just the DTs. Linebackers. So Daryl Jabome, 83 overall. I respect it. Here's where I'm a little confused. Moses Walker, 76 overall. I feel like he should be like a 79. Again, I know we're biased because we're Rutgers fans. We're saying this guy should be higher. I've said a couple of guys I was surprised about, right? I've said Ian Strong surprised me. I've said Samuel Brown surprised me. I've talked about I talked about Dante Chin. So I'm not just saying guys that are too low. I'm saying some guys are too high for what they've produced so far. But if I circle back to the linebackers, Moses Walker, I think he is criminally underrated in this rating.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily biased. I think it's probably because the players much more in depth than the people doing the rankings. So you have a better feel on their trajectory. And I do agree with you that some of the rankings seem a bit low.
I think these guys, the rankings, they sort of tie into how they are currently, where we see the progression that they make and the trajectory they're on. So maybe that's why our rankings feel a little different. I don't think these rankings are horrible. I just think they're a little tweaked.
I kind of look at it in terms of a standard deviation. So it's like if I see somebody with a 79 versus an 81 or a 77 versus 79, I'm going to say they're relatively, interchangeable. If I see someone with a 75 versus an 85, that's going to make the difference. So when I look at the rankings, I'm looking for more disparity as a better way to measure, the difference in talent.
Yeah, and I know I've said that the rankings aren't so far off. Sam Robinson at a 68 is a miserable ranking. He should be a 74 at least. He's our primary middle linebacker. If Jabome goes down, Sam Robinson's going to be damn near the captain of the defense. I mean, that's what it comes down to with the middle linebacker position. We saw it from Motoure. We're going to see it from Jabome this year. He's on the preseason Big Ten watch list.
Yeah, he's a 74, 75, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Cornerbacks. Here's where it gets interesting because we have talked about how Cam Miller is going to have this island, right? And no one's going to want to throw his direction. He's not even the best ranked cornerback on the team. Bo Masco is an 83. Wow. Cam Miller is an 82.
Well, I take that as good news because Cam Miller, he's an impressive player, came here from Penn State. If they're seeing that there's another cornerback that's even better, that means that our pass defense is going to be very formidable this year. And I think, with Jet Elad there too at safety, we have the ingredients. Like on the offensive side, we have the ingredients on the defensive side. Can they put it all together and coalesce into a unit that is a true team and that can function well together? That's what we're going to see. The spring game was not necessarily a very good portrayal of that defense, but that's the spring game, and they learn from it, they grow from it, and we're going to see what's going to happen in the fall. But I think, when it comes to Rutgers, the potential to be great is there. The margin of error is much lower than it is, than it is with an Ohio State or an Oregon. So things are going to have to go Rutgers' way. And that means avoiding injuries and winning the time possession, turnover battles. If all those things come together, we could be looking at an 8-win season. If they don't come together, we could be looking at a 5-win season.
Yeah, for sure. So I talked about Bo and Cam. Jacoby Henderson, 78 overall. Maybe I would say 79 or 80 if I was nitpicking, but that's fine, I guess. Al-Shady Salam, 75, which for CB4 is fine. And yeah, so safeties. Speaking of Jet Elad is an 85 overall, which that's a huge win considering we didn't even know if he would be eligible. I'll take an 8. And if they see him as an 85 overall, and you've been raving about him since before the eligibility case. You've been on him before I knew who he was.
He's going to be a stud, and the ranking of 85 is justified. And when you have two corners that are rated 83 and 82 respectively with a safety rated 85, that's telling you something. You look back at the defensive line, though, they're in the 70s. So, again, that's where the rubber is going to meet the road.
Can't get injured. If Eric O'Neill gets injured, Bradley Weaver gets injured, things look a lot different. Definitely more with Eric O'Neill because Jordan Thompson is inferior to Jordan Walker play-wise so far.
Right.
But, yeah, that D-line cannot get injured. But the safeties, our secondary is looking pretty solid. Kaj Sanders, though, I think they disrespected him a bit at a 76.
Yeah, that's too low. I would give him more like a 79.
Yeah, I was going to say 78, 79.
Yeah.
Timmy Ward, 71, which is fine for I would consider him the backup for safety overall. Maybe you could say Michael Robinson is. And specialists, that's the last position we're at. They got Jai Patel, 75 overall, which I'll take because, like I have said in shows prior, it's not a great sign that we have 3 different guys who kick the football starting instead of 1 or 2 guys. I'll take a 75 overall kicker if we're taking what I said into consideration. Jacob Anderson, punter, 75. And kicker Riley McCann, who will be our kickoff guy, 71 overall.
We need to have a great field goal kicker. That's what worries me because –
well, that's Kai Patel, hopefully. Or Jai Patel, sorry.
Yeah, he's got to have a great year because I think a number of these games are going to come down to one score. And we can't give away points. And so hopefully he has a great year. And, I think right now he's serviceable, but I think he needs to be better and more consistent.
Yeah. And that is it with the ratings.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing everyone's comments about these ratings and about the season as it approaches in a little under 6 weeks. So, Gabe, any final thoughts on the state of Rutgers football?
Well, we've talked about ratings, and I'm happy with most of it, but overall, those are just numbers. They don't take into account intangibles.
Yeah, I think intangibles are everything, and I think we saw that on full display last year. Sure, we had injuries. Sure, there was not enough depth. But building a culture that prepares players to succeed under adverse, high-pressure conditions, to have that emotional maturity, and to be able to do the little things right consistently. I think the key to Rutgers this year is culture, consistency, and cohesiveness, especially.
3 C's. I like it.
Culture, consistency, and cohesiveness, especially on the offense and defensive lines.